Welcome to the Sci-Fi Guys. I am your host, Dave, and with me is John and Chad. Today we are going to be talking about 2001, A Space Odyssey. And it's been a long time since I've seen this movie. This one actually was filmed or was released back in 1968. So, first off, what did you guys think of the movie? Just overall. Okay, there we go. That's what they thought of it.
Molasses is my one thought.
Yeah. Slow burn.
It was a slow burn. We definitely know it's a slow burn, but it's got a lot of really good stuff in it. Maybe some stuff that, well, I'm sure we'll get to when we get into our correcting and fixing, improving, and all that other stuff. But first, before we go any further, I got something I want to show you guys. All right. You know, a movie is iconic when your Alexa actually does stuff with it. I'm going to go ahead and I want y'all to hear this. Okay, ready? Oh, Alexa is not my wake word. It's a different one. So, computer, open the pod bay doors.
I'm sorry, Dave. I'm afraid I can't do that. Also, I'm not Hal, and we're not in space.
Is that cool or what? I mean, you know, that
love
Amazon would
to.
go ahead and add that from a movie from 1968. So obviously, it's been around for a while, and a lot of people really love it because when they throw little Easter eggs and things like that, it just makes it pretty fun. With that, we are going to go ahead and start with our questions. Get ready for some doozies this time. Okay. All right, I got to start off with the biggest question of all. Okay, what is the monolith? Let's just go with that. What is a monolith? The big dun dun dun, you know, that's just standing there that the apes are all freaking out about, that was found on the moon, and then they go to Jupiter, and then it's there too. So, give me your thoughts.
I personally vote it's TARDIS 1.0.
Okay, for those of you
But
out there
on
that
a
are
more-
like me, who are not big Doctor Who fans, but at least I know what that is. So,
Listen, if they're watching us, they should at least be nerdy enough to know Doctor Who.
that's funny. I have
but,
never seen any Doctor Who episodes ever. I have not seen anyone. And look at the Chad's the same way. But we do know what a TARDIS is. So
yeah,
maybe we'll get to that in this series.
On a more real note, it almost feels like a test from an alien race. Like, let's send this in. Let's see how curious whatever life forms are on the planet, and let's see if we can figure out what they're about and see if they can figure out what we have. To some extent, it feels kind of like that. Otherwise, it's just a thing. And at all levels, humans must explore the thing.
The thing. I like that. It's good. I like that. Chad, how about you?
Yeah. I don't know. I thought it was either a traveling black hole. Small rectangular black hole just sitting there. Because you see it towards the end, it does move inside of it. It's something.
I could see that to a point, but then I got to ask a question. Then, okay, so the whole beginning part where they had the apes and they find the monolith there, were the apes on the moon? And it was breathable and inhabited at that point, and that is what that is showing. And then later when they find it, and later on, and then they say, "Hey, we uncovered this. It was buried on purpose." Was it the apes that buried it, or was it something else? I know it's kind of a multi-ended question there. Chad, what do you think?
If it's found on the moon and it's breathable, why didn't you see the apes there already? So I would say something else buried it.
Okay, I can get with that. John?
Well, again, if my theory is some form of alien race test, it definitely feels like something else had to get it there. I don't think it just magically appeared per se. Definitely seems created and intended to be there for some reason.
Okay, I can do that. I'm at a loss. I don't know what it was. Just because the ending was just so bizarre. It almost seems like you need to be on drugs to understand it. But of course, another science fiction movie that we're going to see this year has an ending that's very similar. Um, and I don't think I know the one wasn't on purpose. It was basically they had no budget and they were running out of time and they said, we've got to release it.
Done.
So this one, well, maybe we can talk about that a little bit more. Okay, hey, let's give them some props. All right, let's definitely give this movie some props. All right, compare the model building for this movie and the movie that was also released in 1968, Planet of the Apes, when they had their spaceship. So let's compare the two. I mean, I'll be the first to admit. I mean, the model building in this movie was fantastic.
Mhm.
You could see every detail, especially on Discovery. Every detail was there. I mean, especially when they did those outside shots of the ship itself, and then of course when they were actually landing their shuttle on the moon, and then it had the whole, it was like a dome, and then it was all opening back up like this, and then the ship was descending into it. I just thought that to do that on I have no idea what scale and everything was and how it was built. But what do you guys think of comparing the two?
I I think I agree with you, Dave. It's way better than the Planet of the Apes. But Planet of the Apes served a purpose. It didn't want to be more in space, so it didn't have to go detail on their ship. This is more in space, so you want more in detail, and that you actually own the ship, not just a little plaster background behind you.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, John, how about you?
For me, I think comparatively, I agree with with what both of you have said. And on the whole, I feel like A Space Odyssey. I get it's kind of where I get to start to see where a lot of people are like, well, this is the sci-fi film that kind of films. I mean, because that model building is just very immaculate, where that would lend itself to uh, help with later productions, especially towards the 70s, 80s, where they really heavy on models and have to use that for film production as a whole. So I definitely think they knocked it out of the park, and that's just one of the areas that I think lends itself to future films in a way that people go, oh yeah, 2001: A Space Odyssey. It kind of started the sci-fi trend as a whole. The model building, I guarantee see that being a huge part of that.
Yeah, I definitely can't argue with you at all there. Okay, let's look at. Okay, here we go. Since we're talking about remember, this was built. This was not built. This was released in 1968. Okay, according to this movie, how do you see women being portrayed in the future? Anybody? Are we all froze up?
Future in society or future in film?
The future in science fiction, or a future in the what? All right. Um, so the movie basically had stewardesses. We'll call it what that's what they were called back then. And you did have a little bit of assistance, but they didn't seem like they were. When they were talking to the doctors were all the men, and everyone on the panel was men, pretty much. I don't remember anyone that was being on the panel of when they were talking about um, releasing the information to the public or whatever. It just seemed like that they I don't know, this movie. Well, I mean, you could tell it was a thing of the times, because we've seen movies since then that have really gone out of their way to make sure that women are not just an object, not just an assistant, but they're the lead character in sometimes. So let me rephrase the question then. Do you think this film would have been significantly different had one of the leads been a woman?
I would say CS. So it would throwing it off a little bit, but it would have been nice to see it more at the end where they get in the pod where in the Hal is reading the lips, make it more interesting of the dynamic of that end.
I like that. Okay, I can see that. John, you get anything else with that?
Whole, I don't think it would necessarily change the story. A whole lot of be helping world building as a whole. If you just aim for like a quote unquote token female character just to have one, I don't think it would have been as meaningful. But in terms of the female lead carrying the story, I don't think it necessarily would have changed the storyline, but I think it would have added an interesting element and may have changed the way the two leads would have had to interact, because the male interaction would have been a little different than the male female. Just I think overall.
Yeah, I like that. I get that. Okay, let's go on. All right, so science fiction as a genre is they basically push us throughout. I mean, we've talked about artificial intelligence a lot on this pod, and we're not going to talk about artificial intelligence. We don't want to. I don't want to go there again because we've gone there too much. However, science fiction does make us question, what does it mean to be a human, a person, or even just alive? Would you consider Hal to be any of these? I guess it's you, Chad, because I think we lost John.
We lost. Hal, Lord.
So,
You
would
don't want
you
to go
consider
AI.
Hal a human, a person, or even alive? How about that? Alive. Would you consider him alive?
I would have considered him alive, but it's a computer. They made a Alexa smart enough to read lips and hear and just dictate whatever you. So basically, the doctors could go and do their thing, and the person's flying the ship. So I think a little bit of both. He could be human and be alive at the same point, but I, it's hard to say without classifying as AI.
Yeah, I don't really want to go artificial
Yeah,
intelligence, but at the same time, I agree with you. How
yeah.
was a computer who was programmed, and from what I have read, especially in some of the documentaries that I was reading on this, that the reason Hal went crazy was because he was getting superseding information. He was getting it back from from the moon, saying you can't tell them what they're going there for. And then at the same time, you have Dave saying, "Well, wait a minute, what's going on? Why is he breaking? They've never broke before, so I don't get it." So,
And you look at it, it's like the last Starfighter.
okay, we haven't done that one yet, but we're
I
getting
know.
there.
I know.
Actually, I think we have that one in December. I think.
Yes, it's in this year.
Yeah. John, what do you think? Do you think? Would you consider Hal to be a human, a person, or even alive?
In terms of any of those, I would probably say no personally. He's definitely full computer, foolproof, even if somewhat.
And
He's gone. I think he must be having some internet issues at his house.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's go on to the next question then. All right. So when Hal kills Frank, Dave is shocked. That a computer could overcome his programming and harm a human being. Obviously, they were considering that this computer was what is the Oslov's rules, that a computer can do no harm, can or a robot. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm thinking of another movie that we haven't done yet. So, but anyway, so to keep going, that he could overcome his programming, harm a human being. This event challenges us to our common human belief that we have complete control over the things we create. Where else in this movie do you see themes of creation as well as themes of transformation? I know that's deep.
Mm,
It's kind of deep.
trying to think because it bored me with the beginning with the apes, but you see the apes trying to learn how to play a drum.
Well, you see, they weren't trying to play the drum; they were using it as a weapon.
Yeah.
They had never used a weapon before, so I definitely will say that is more of a transformation rather than a creation.
Yeah.
The only part of the creation I actually thought about was that ending, which was again bizarre. He's laying in the bed, he touches the monolith, and then now he's a baby that's floating over the earth, looking down at it. Again, that was a very interesting and
Yeah.
questionable ending. Yet this is known as one of the greatest science fiction movies ever. And so
Because
okay.
yeah,
All right, so I'm going to go my final question. Maybe John can get on here. In the end, did Dave imagine it all? Was it a wormhole where he was transported to another time and place, or was it something else? Chad,
I want to know. See what if Trump's going to answer, but
he's froze.
yeah, he froze. Let's see here, wormhole or something else. I think it was a wormhole because how can you go from being fully grown to a baby without taking from a different aspect of time?
Yeah, that's kind of the way I was leaning towards too. Is I was thinking it was maybe not necessarily a wormhole, but maybe a time traveling thing.
See, that's what I was thinking. It could, and then the more you look at it and you got into the movie, like that monolith is probably a time vortex. Like it's something
Yeah.
that's it is there, and it's you go one way, but it's not there on the other end, so you can't come back.
Yeah. And now I know that they supposedly answer some of this info in 2010. The movie. I've never seen 2010. I know it was around. It's been around forever, but I think when I was younger and saw this in like 1975 or whatever, whenever I watched it the first time, I think I was like, okay, I'm bored. So let's. So I mean,
And
honestly, I don't think I've watched this since the early 70s. Really, I mean, it's been a while. So
I seen clips like shorts of this movie, just in and out. Just I've never watched it from start to beginning or start to end.
yeah, I haven't. Like I said, it was like 1975. I think the last time I saw it. So okay, let's go to plot holes. Oh man, there was only a couple really, but I want to see, Chad, did you see any plot holes in this?
Yeah, there's a couple, but the one thing I got is when they Dave and Mark, right?
Frank.
Frank's the one get that Hal took care of, right?
Yes.
I'm just making sure I get the thing right. Because I mean, Dave was sitting there watching them, watching the feed, and then he sees it. Like he's watching the screen. Couldn't he see the thing turn and go? He was watching it. Why couldn't there's a way to not to stop? Like hit.
Oh, you mean the actual pod?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yes. I think it because it was behind him. which of course now we know about science fiction movies and even real being in space that they would have some kind of tether between them, because you're not going to, especially that distance, you're not just going to, oh, I'm just going to float away, and then and then I don't know what Dave was thinking. If Dave was thinking he was going to be able to get to rescue him, when you're without oxygen that long, you're dead.
You're
I
dead.
don't know what he was thinking, but
No man left behind. But
yeah, I guess.
another thing they were talking about, reset the HAL and only make it where he can only do certain functions. So why didn't they do that before they go fix the radio? Go ahead and take care of go inside HAL and take care of the breakers.
Yeah, I don't know, John. We're talking about plot holes. We kind of bypassed some of the questions, or we did the questions, but you were having some internet issues, which it's okay. So did you see any plot holes in there? Chad was just mentioning how when Frank and Dave, when they first knew the problem, why didn't they fix Hal then and then go out and fix it? So
yeah. And honestly, I mean, there's a whole lot with the issue in general of what's going on with the machine. I think definitely fix the whole HAL situation, because number one, they could have solved the whole HAL not hearing them from the get-go, which is kind of what Chad's idea would also get at. They could have just taken HAL out of the picture, and I think that would have solved a whole lot of issues for them, which is the overall plot hole. Doesn't lend itself to the story. In terms of other plot holes, there's not a whole particular lot that I remember seeing.
yeah, I'm the same way. I only saw a couple of them. One of the major ones, basically when they were on the Discovery, Dave is showing Hal a picture. Remember, he's like, and then Hal's like, "Move it closer, Dave. I can't see it." So to me, is like, okay, he moved it closer so Hal could see it. How could Hal read lips through a oblong window, which is going to distort a little bit, and then his camera feed is that much further away? I'm
Or
like,
why
really?
didn't they just draw a portrait of themselves in the thing, place that in front of Hal's camera, and then nothing happens?
Yeah. And then the second question is, if Hal had control of the pod that killed Frank, why didn't he just kill Dave? He killed Frank. Dave was out there in a pod trying to rescue Frank, and why didn't he just say, "Okay, I'm just going to take the oxygen out. You're dead." Because he didn't have a mask. He knew he didn't have a helmet.
Or just open the pod door.
Yeah. Oh, at any time. You're right. I mean, I don't know. I was telling Chad as I when you were offline or having internet issues, that I did some reading on this, and they said, according to the writers, that Hal went crazy basically, and he went crazy because he was getting conflicting information. He was getting information from the moon people, the powers that be, that said, "Hey, we're not going to release this information," and told Hal, "Hey, get there no matter what." And then when Dave and Hal was like, or Dave and Frank were like, "Well, okay, this doesn't work. Why does this not work?" And then all of a sudden they're like, "We've never had one go bad." I mean, I'm sorry, I've worked on circuit breakers before, on circuit panels before. It could go bad. You just don't know. Or, and then to go back out there, that was dumb. To go back out there and put it back in, just leave it out. The new one's working fine. Leave it alone. When you get back to home base, then check it out. What a concept. Instead of doing an unnecessary EV spacewalk. That just
movie.
So yeah. Okay. Now, our favorite part. All right. How are we going to fix or improve this movie? John, it seems like your internet is stable. I'm going to start with you.
Fair enough. To fix this, overall, I say cut about half the film. And I don't even mean cut any of the story. I legit just mean cut half of the film or speed it up in 2x speed, because I legitimately watched it in 2x speed, mainly because it helps me watch a lot of our films sometimes. But like watching it at 2x speed, this is the first film I can definitively say it looked normal even at 2x speed, and that says a lot. That means you could cut out half the movie and still have the whole story. So my main fix would be that. Otherwise, I might add a little bit more action to it. And again, I understand Hal is kind of the underlying villain, whether intentionally or unintentionally, an actual quote unquote villain. But this story seems like it could use some outside influence, like maybe somebody hacked Hal in the background, something like that. I could use either one of those.
I like that. Chad, how about you?
I kind of agree with John here. It's just cut the movie in half or do something like the times where you're going transition between the ape and seeing the stewardess and the doctors. They could have kind of shortened that up some and just kind of in between these trying to interludes they get the build up. Shortened it. You don't need to see the ship just traveling along, going through space, and nothing's happening. You get the shot. Let's go.
Come on, we've got the shot. We break for nothing,
Yeah,
from Spaceballs, when you
yeah.
saw the big ship going through, and then at the very end, we break for nothing. I'm kind of the same way on both you guys. My thing was, first of all, take out the whole ape thing. There was no reason for it. It didn't make any sense. You could have started the movie with him with the guy flying, or what was it, Doctor
Somebody.
somebody. Anyway, I had it written down somewhere in here, probably in my notes. Oh yeah, Dr. Floyd. There it is.
Yeah.
Okay, so have Dr. Floyd just flying to the moon and saying, "Hey, we found this. We're going to send a ship out to investigate it." Get rid of, like I said, get rid of the ape segment. There's no reason to even have Dr. Floyd call his little girl. That was just a product placement for Bell Corporation. At the time, Bell Corporation was the only one that had phones. Now we all have cell phones, so it's quite a bit different, right? Change the score. The score was fantastic, but it just didn't make any sense. You have this beautiful violin concerto playing, and it's just a ship that's just flying across, and it's like, what does that have to do? If the ship is in danger, then have it, dun dun dun, or something. Okay, give us an actual ending, because we're still to this day. Here it is, 2024. We don't know how it ended, because we don't know if that was the monolith was a time travel device, whether it was a wormhole, what it was. So give us an actual ending. That's what I would say. And I even said, if the monolith is an alien probe to view human behavior and to see if we are technologically advanced for first contact, and then maybe at the end they get there, Dave talks to them, and then have them actually talking to aliens or something. Give us something. And I love the idea of having somebody hacking in to Hal and messing with him. I think that is fantastic. I think that would be really good. Okay, next we are going to give it our ratings. How many lightsabers are you going to give it? And yes, Chad, you can give half lightsabers. That's fine. So let's start with you, Chad, since I just picked on you. How many lightsabers are you going to give this movie? Sorry.
Well, I was going to go with 0 since it's a classic. I'm going to go with a half a lightsaber.
Ooh, okay. Bringing out the big guns. Half a lightsaber. Okay, John, how about you?
I mean, I was going to say I was a bit of a critic, especially considering last week, but I'm going to go 2 this week, and that is only for two reasons. Number one, the score, and number 2, and even though the score didn't align with movie elements, definitely agree with that. Still a beautiful score. And number 2, I give it another lightsaber just for the fact that it is like a classic / father of sci-fi movies. The modeling, the shots were well set up. Even though a lot of it's boring and such, those are my 2 points I give it. So I'll give it 2 overall.
And actually, I am the same with you, John. I'm giving it 2. It's sad. I gave Mars Attacks last week more lightsabers than we're giving 2001, a classic movie. But it was very dry, very boring until we got to the Discovery, and then the whole HAL stuff. That was really good. It was very well done. And like you said, I did like the score. It just wasn't quite placed right on some of them. The model making was fantastic. So that's why I'm going to give it 2 lightsabers also. All right, everyone. It is that time where we want you guys to contact us. Please contact us. All right. I got a little banner that comes across here that says you can reach us on X at TheseSciFiGuys. You can email us, TheseSciFiGuys@gmail.com. Easiest way is also you can put a comment right down here in YouTube. Put a comment in there. Tell us what you guys want to hear. If you like it, great. Give us a thumbs up, subscribe, all that good stuff. We're all rather new with all this stuff here. So we're still learning all this. But here, next time, I picked this movie because I knew this one. I picked 2001 because I knew we wanted to see the classic, and it's old, and I'm old. So, but John actually picked the next one because one, he's an Apple guy, and this is only seen on Apple right now, Apple TV. So, next up is Finch, Tom Hanks. Tom Hanks is this entire movie.
Yeah, I was about to say, it's not so much the Apple guy as it is the Tom Hanks guy and I Love Robots. So it's a good combo.
Yes. I'm actually very looking forward to this movie because I saw it back like when I had Apple TV a couple of years ago, and it was really enjoyable. So I don't think Chad has not seen this one. It's one of the few that Chad has not seen. Yay! So with that, we are going to go ahead and sign off, and we appreciate you guys watching us. And let's see, do we need to do a different ending this time? Something with Hal? Nah. Peace out.
Crash and burn.
Crash and burn.